Welcome to True House Stories. Of course, I'm Lenny Fontana, and we've taken a break in between some of the shows for certain reasons. I've been focusing on other work and doing records and stuff, but as well, been happy to bring together certain people that I like to see come and share their story, especially with the amount of history that they carry. Okay? So when I mean history, a lot of it's on the job. So you start your job like anywhere that you go and work for any company, and you make your friends, and you start to make stories come together from those friendships. But more so, the reason why we're going to talk about this gentleman in a second, me as a record producer, worked with this gentleman many times in different things and, along the years. And you always wonder what happens from when you hear a record made to where it gets to, say, commercial success on the radio, right? Or these days, Spotify, the end game. A lot of you may not understand the in-between part, the bridge part of how a record goes from inception to where it gets delivered to the end. And this is where we, for example, like myself, I would sign a record to a record label. It could be any of the labels. It could have been Strictly Rhythm or Warner's or any labels. And they take the record from you. And what's the process that we go through to see a record become commercially viable through a club scene? What's the ground roots to making that happen, right? So, of course, we go to these wonderful people that know how to pick certain records or know how to drive a record to get it to that step of making it become commercially viable through the DJs, through their networks of different ways of promoting. So now we're going to use the word promotion. And this is the important part. Without these type of players in the game, you would probably never have known the records that became very famous or some of the artists. And that's why I have to give Bobby Shaw his due right as one of the best in the game and longevity in the game and still doing it today. When you start back in 1977, okay, from a nightclub, working as a bartender and working your way up to the mail room and pushing, those mail outs and eventually getting a job at TK Disco and then moving on from TK and then getting a corporate job at RFC and then Warner's and MCA and Siren, and the list goes on and on and on. And all the artists you work with, you got to be doing something really right. So without no further ado, I'd like to welcome to this show one of the best, if not the best in our game, Bobby Shaw. For God's sake, Bobby Shaw Promotions. We love Bobby Shaw, and as Bobby Promo on Twitch, as you all know him today, but we know him as Bobby Shaw.
We sure do, don't we? But the funny thing was, I was out at, I went to see Francois play a couple of weeks ago in Brooklyn, and two people came up to me and, oh my God, you're Bobby Promo. I'm like, whatever happened to Bobby Shaw, the 45-year promoter? It's like, I went down the tubes. Like, who is Bobby? They don't even know my name. It's like, oh my God, it's Bobby Promo. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and is there something to be said? Is it a curse or is it a blessing?
I think it's a blessing.
Good. So that's how I see it, because you've gotten another career out of the whole thing.
It's like a renaissance in a way. I went to see what's his face? I went to a garage party in Lincoln Center, and I was in the elevator. I was going to the bathroom. It was in a parking lot downstairs, and I went down to. I was going in the bathroom, and there were these four women in the elevator, and one of the women said to me, "I know you. I know you. You're on that Twitch thing, right?" I said, "You're friends with Louis Vega. He raised into you." I said, "No, he doesn't raid into me, Louis Vega." They said, "Wait a minute, Jelly Bean raid." I said, "Yeah, you got it right." I love your show. I'm like, oh my God, this is like so crazy. Someone like out of nowhere. It's like, it was kind of freaky, it's kind of freaky out for me because I've always been in the background. So, something like this has just been like, it's been just something so different, and I can't tell you how much I love it.
Yeah, I could tell because people have tuned into Bobby Promo's show. Every record, pretty much every record he pulls out, there's a story that goes with it, a personal story, which makes it even that more important to listen to what he's doing. He's handpicking the music, and you'll see him write about this. He'll say, I'm spending hours to put the show together for Saturday night. So I got to figure out where I'm going with the show. And then, as like all DJs do, you pull records out. Oh my God, I remember where I was with this one, or who I worked with this record, right? Bobby, pretty much.
No doubt. Well, even before I was in the music business, I mean, I was buying records from day one. Double Exposure, the very first commercial 12-inch, 10%. I bought it, when it came out. And I never stopped buying records, even if I wasn't a DJ. I mean, it was always going record shopping every week, and ever since I got in the business. But I was going record shopping with my mother. Even before I was 10 years old, we would watch American Bandstand and then go buy records, my mother and I. So I've been buying records for a long time. I miss the record stores. I miss the camaraderie of seeing all the DJs together. I don't miss the wow, we have one copy. Who's going to get it? I was very fortunate that there was one store in particular, Rebel, which closed, unfortunately. But the guy used to let me come in an hour before they opened. He knew I was spending money, and he knew I was in the business, and he was a nice guy. And there were two people in there, Craig Coleman and I. Craig Coleman, the president of Atlantic Records. The two of us were privy to be in there an hour early to go through the new records, which was such a benefit for me.
Yeah, of course. And I know you were well trusted from all the DJs around the New York City area that were at the hottest clubs, and they would see you coming in. They knew you had fire under your basically.
Well, most of the time, I would like to, when I was promoting for the major labels, I would like to have the DJ generally come to my office and hear the music that I was going to be, because I would go around from one person, one DJ to the next. I would take an acetate and go to 5 different clubs a night, and it was just a horrible thing that I'd have to take the record back from them. You couldn't leave it.
Oh, it's so horrible. It's so horrible as a DJ. After now, this record's super hot. I can't have it.
Well, because it wasn't out yet. So I was really basically testing the ground and creating a vibe for word of mouth. Now, you go to the internet, word of mouth, it's not the same anymore. It was just, now, it's just so different now. But then, you created a buzz. When the record came out, everybody knew about it already. Now it's record comes out, everybody has it, boom, like that.
Yeah, I know. There's no setup time like you would set that.
Not really.
Or, as well, a lot of us would do as producers and DJs would test records to see how the feeling came from the dance floor. You knew you had something.
Right? Someone like you can create a buzz because you can do a mix on a record and have it just for yourself and play it on your show and build it up till it comes out. So
right.
You're still capable of doing that. In some respects, I am on my Twitch show because sometimes there are things I play that aren't out yet. Right. But you are more than capable because you're a true musician.
Thanks. Thank you. Bobby, let's get to that first question. I ask everyone the same way. Show's known for that. How does music find the young Bobby? And of course, you'll take us. No one paints a story better.
Well, what do you mean? How does music find me?
Well, how did you find the music?
Well, like I said, I used to watch American Bandstand with my mom, and we used to go record shopping. And basically, I went to college. There was Cabbage's Records. I went to the University of Buffalo. I would go to the record store, Cabbage's Record. I went to a bar. I used to go to this bar called the Bocce Room in Buffalo. And of course, any club that I would go to, I'd have to make friends with the DJ. And I wasn't in the business, but because I was such good friends with the DJ, that the club, when going to school in Buffalo, I would come home for Thanksgiving, Christmas, Passover, Jewish New Year. The club would actually give me a stipend of money to buy records in New York for them, even though I wasn't the DJ. So it's just always been a love for music. And when I came back from college, I used to frequent a bar a lot. And one day the manager of the club came over to me and said, "Look, you'll hear so much." And Tony Smith was the DJ. And I didn't know him from Adam. And the manager of the club, this guy named Kevin O'Connell, there he is, Tony Smith, the beloved Tony Smith, passed away last year, unfortunately. Hello, Patty Furicelli. Hello, Josh. Hello, Otho. Hi, Ben. Hi, Red. Hi, Olivia. So the guy in the middle was Charlie Lamani. He was a fellow bartender. Lived on Hillside Avenue in Queens. And
wow, you remember that, huh? Hillside Avenue.
I did. Yeah, I did. I used to stay there every once in a while. He was a good buddy of mine. Joe Ventura, welcome in. Hello, Reggae Patty. Good afternoon. Nice to see everybody here. So this guy Kevin O'Connell came over to me one day and said, "You're here so much. How would you like to work here?" So, yeah, sure, why not? I was working at Saks Fifth Avenue at the time. And that's what happened. I got a job there, and I was a busboy. I would wear no shirt and these little skimpy shorts, and I would walk around with a tray, drinks. I was 21 years old. Drinks, and 22. And they made me a bartender, and I got to know a lot of people in the business. But I've always been buying records. I love going to record stores. I miss it tremendously.
So do I.
Now I go to A1 Records and Academy and Generation, and I look for old 12 inches that I don't have. And sometimes albums, but rarely do I buy there's a store on, I just know the address, 220 East 10th Street. And they want $19 for a new 12 inch of a new song. It's really a lot of money.
It's crazy. When you used to think we were paying, at the end of it, maybe $6 a 12 inch, $4.99 for domestic, $6.99.
I mean, I could pull out a 12 inch from my shelf and show you the price.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to remember the last when it stopped, and then people are back to reprint, pressing again now. It's like the niche thing. It's a very niche. It's not like it'll ever be. For example, I know. Well, I don't want to jump ahead because I want you to keep going with the story. But anyway, back in the day, someone like Bobby would have 5,000 pieces of vinyl to promote as a promotion tool. You're lucky you can even do that to move that amount now.
Well, what I would do is I had a pickup day when I was at Warner Brothers and MCA, and I would have envelopes. Friday was the pickup day, and I would have envelopes. I would address the DJs and then leave it out there out front. Some of them I saw. I couldn't see everybody, but yeah, I mean, I got a lot of records to promote as far as volume goes. There was a box of, let's say, 200 in my office of almost every release.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Nowadays, they do 300, 400 pieces sellable around the world, where that was just a box of, well, even with the record pools, you were sending record pool records out as 100 per record pool, right? So then think about how many free goods they were giving.
Thousands.
Right.
There were so many record pools at one time. And look, I'm not going to say the internet killed things, but it hurt in a certain way. It helped and it hurt.
Yeah, it helped quickly end it in a lot of ways. So on the story of you're starting out at Barefoot Boy with Tony Smith, and you're doing the drinks and stuff. How does this transcend to you getting into a job at a label, and which label?
I was 24 years old. I didn't want to be a bartender my entire life. It wasn't my cup of tea. The money was great, but it just wasn't what I wanted. And I had met some people, actually a lot of people. I mean, let me retract here. So Fridays was the pickup day for DJs to go around to get records. Now, I would go into the booth as much as possible, especially when a record person came to see Tony. And the record company people who were bringing record, there were a bunch of record promoters at that time. And I kind of became their choice I became a bartender. I got elevated. I didn't have to wear no shirt anymore. I got elevated to a bartender. So these record company people started becoming my customers. And, I would give them drinks on the house and make sure they were covered. And I knew who all the record reps were as a bartender, as opposed to being a DJ. And I started going around with Tony on Friday and getting free promos, even though I wasn't a DJ. They would always welcome Tony Smith into the room. He didn't have to wait outside. And I went with him and because I would take care of them as a bartender, one hand washed the other. I got a lot of promos that people would dive to have now, even though I wasn't a DJ.
Right. So because you were there, they knew you, they were hanging out with you at the bar. I
treated them well as a bartender. Free drinks, I mean, I think I was allowed 10 free drinks a night, if I'm not mistaken. So
did you follow directions, or did you give out more than 10 a night?
I didn't want to lose that job. Let me tell you, the money was really good. I was still living at my parents at the time, in Queens. So I went around. There were two people I went for jobs for. I went to Audrey Joseph at Arista. She might have been Ariola, Arista. And I went to Ray Caviano, and Ray Caviano gave me a job in the mailroom, 35-hour week, TK Records. I was bringing home $84.30 a week. It was a $105 paycheck. And it was the greatest thing because I got to know every important DJ's name in the country, because I was sealing envelopes and, literally ripping off name tags and, sealing the envelope, putting the TK sticker on the top, the postage. I had a postage machine there. And I got to know a lot of DJs. And one day Ray just said, why don't you start calling some of these DJs? So I started calling some DJs, and then he eventually got a job at Warner Brothers. And a couple of months into his gig, he called me up and said, I'm not happy. They gave him a promotion guy, and the guy's name was Mark Murphy. I don't even know if he's alive anymore. And he said, I'm not happy with him. I'm getting a staff together here. Would you want to come over and work for me? And I had gotten a big raise at TK by then. I was getting $150 a week, and Ray gave me $300 a week. I doubled my salary in 1979, and I went to work at Warner Brothers. As we did the RFC Records, and we promoted the Warner Brothers records. And it was a ball. I mean, we had such amazing music. It was incredible. Yeah, Warner Brothers Records was the kingpin.
Yeah. I just have a quick question about the TK thing.
Sure.
Now, TK Records has the main office in Hialeah, Florida. Am I right at that time?
495 Southeast 10th Court.
So how did that operate with New York having an office? How did that play out? Was that a satellite office, or was it?
It was a satellite office. It was the only satellite office they had. Henry Stone was the owner of the label. He would come up quite often. And really nice guy. And that's basically how it ran. But, they trusted Ray. Ray was a great promotion man. He knew what he was doing.
No, I believe that. Oh, no, there's no doubt on that. But I remember hearing the Henry Stone story that he had a lot of the Southern radio people in his pocket, that he was able to break records easier because he had from the 50s and 60s, somehow he was able to work records like KC and the Sunshine Band. All these records were Jimmy Horne were becoming massive hits.
Well, I don't really know that much about
I'm just bringing it up.
But, word on the street is generally true most of the time. And look, let's face it, Anita Ward, ring my bell. Who the fuck was Anita Ward? But part of my language. But she became massive.
Yeah, that's my point. You see what I'm saying? Like, again, remember I said to you, all children?
But they were great records.
No, they were great, but
I mean, you had to spend to get play.
So here's the thing now. Did you, as a record promoter at that time, TK, or even before Warner's, or going into Warner's, did you have the power to say to someone like Ray and Henry, that record just doesn't have it? Or did you?
Well, I really wasn't the promoter then because I was the mailroom boy.
That's true.
So I couldn't do that. But when I worked at Warner's, and Ray was, they let Ray. Ray was kind of relieved of his job, and they kept me on. And I worked with somebody who I got along pretty well with, but there were times records just didn't happen, and I really wasn't crazy. He always blamed me. It was my fault the records didn't happen. There were some issues I had with the guy.
Okay.
But overall, as a whole thing, the Warner Brothers, 5 years of Warner's were just an amazing part of my life.
Well, let's people see this through your eyes. You get the job at RFC Warner, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What's the office and who's at that office at the time with you?
Let's see. To my right was Ray Caviano. 2 over was Vince Aletti, the A&R guy. Bobby Siegel was Ray Caviano's assistant. We had 2 secretaries, Letitia and Mary Ann Claypatch. To my left was Larry Patterson.
Yep.
We had Joey Carvello working in the Boston office. We had Jim Strait working in Chicago. I can't believe I remember all these names.
It's amazing. I love it.
Breakfast yesterday, and we had Craig Kostic working on the West Coast. Craig Kostic was the LA rep, and basically we were an LA-based company.
So now take us through the pecking order of how a record gets into them, signed, and gets.
Well, Vince Aletti was the A&R guy. Like, I'm pretty sure he brought change in.
Okay.
I don't know if they went. I had to say, I really don't recall if they went right to Ray or went through Vince Aletti. But Vince was a former writer for Record World. Yes. He wrote the column Disco File in Record World. He actually has a book out with all these different charts and DJs. Mm-hmm. And they called the shots, those 2. I was just the guy promoting the records. I don't really recall having that much input. I did and I didn't.
What did that mean? Again, people have to understand that title, promoter. They sign the records. Now what happens?
Well, okay. Now there are 2 different parts. We're going to talk about the RFC part. We're going to talk about the Warner Brothers parts. They're 2 different entities. The RFC parts, Ray always liked to be the ringleader. So even though I was the promotion guy, there were many times where we would go out and we would go out together as opposed to me going out handling the records. We were a pretty good team. It was so strange. I lived in a studio apartment, and I was paying $325 a month for rent. And yet on a Saturday night, a stretch limousine was coming to pick me up to go out clubbing. The doorman would look at me like, "What the fuck is going on here?" Ray was very extravagant, and he knew how to spend Warner Brothers money. And in those days, money was a little bit more probably extendable to the record labels. It's different now, as everything is. But he led a very grand lifestyle. We would go from club to club in a stretch limo, and the limo would just stand there and wait for us. I was a young kid in my 20s, and I was being catered in a limousine to a club. I look back at it now. I don't think it had the same impact now as it did back. I know it doesn't have the same impact now as it did back then. But it was crazy. It was this guy who was paying like hardly any rent, and I was living in like a small little studio apartment, getting picked up in a stretch limousine.
In a Lincoln Continental stretch.
But when Ray left, it became a whole different ballgame because they let go of the entire staff except for Craig and I. So I started traveling on their money and going around to different cities and seeing different DJs and kind of nurturing my career.
And
I I had the money and the funds to go any place I wanted to go. And Craig was not the type that would go on the road to see DJs. He was, very happy in the LA office. He was fun to work with. We had our issues, but basically we got along pretty well.
That's incredible.
But I will say,
go ahead.
Most of the records broke out of New York City.
And why?
Well, I can tell you for a fact, 33% of the 12 inches that we sold was sold out of New York City. Why? Yes. I think a great reason was Frankie Crocker. If you want to show, I think I sent you.
I'm looking for. I'm going to.
So Frankie Crocker was the music director. I mean, it's kind of like a whole cliquey thing here. Frankie, I did show up, Patty. I love going out. I still love going out. I used to go out like back in those days. First of all, clubs were 7 days a week. Nice. It wasn't like Friday night, Saturday night bottle service. See you later. It was 7 days a week. There was no internet. There was no dance radio. It was so different back then. So anyhow, so part of the reason for the success of the records in New York, I was close with Larry Levan.
I'll go to Larry's picture.
He broke a lot of records for me. Okay. Now, Frankie Crocker was the program director, WBLS. And he was on 4 to 8, Monday to Friday. Now, Frankie used to come to the garage and stand over Larry's booth and stand next to Larry and see what he was playing. There was one thing about Frankie Crocker. WBLS was, quote, an R&B station. The record companies had their promo people. Pop promotion, R&B promotion, dance promotion. I was the dance guy. Mm-hmm. Now, Jackie Thomas was the Warner Brothers rhythm and blues rep. BLS was categorized as an R&B station, but Frankie Crocker music was colorless. So he would go to the garage and stand over Larry. Now, Larry had a major amount of trust in me. I would actually when I would buy records, I would buy him records that he didn't have. Imports I would buy because, one, I knew he would like them, and two, I wanted to dance them. So I would bring him things that I had nothing to do with. And he had a major trust in me, and I would bring him a record, he'd probably put it on without even listening. The trust between each other was great. So Frankie was standing over him, and Larry would play my records, and Monday afternoon, they would be on BLS. Now, it caused a little bit of friction at Warner Brothers with me and the R&B person, but it was very short-lived. But he was playing Kraftwerk. He was playing Frankie Crocker, I'm talking about. He would take the records from Larry. Kraftwerk, The Who, Tom Tom Club. These were records that were not being worked by Jackie Thomas, but they were going on BLS. They were great records.
How the hell does that happen? Because what happens on their side. The record's getting on BLS. We're not bringing it to BLS. Who's bringing it up there? They're saying
that. She knew, eventually Jackie Thomas realized we're playing for the same team. And
that's where egos come in, right?
If you show the picture of Prince and I, she's the person in the picture. And she came to love me. She's the one next to me.
See?
And at the beginning, she had, I think it was a little bothersome. She was trying to get, Al Jarreau, Randy Crawford played, but he was playing Kraftwerk.
Each knee, son, she.
I didn't have to bring chicken up to him on a Friday afternoon.
I was going to ask you, did you have to bring up a manila, a brown envelope with something in there that made
I did not. No.
Did you hear about that a lot from a lot of promoters? They had to, sweeten up the pie a little bit.
No, but I will tell you, and I could say this because he passed on. So if he was still living, I wouldn't say this. But we went to a DMC judging contest together in London. We didn't go together, but we were both judges on a contest. And Frankie and I went out to dinner. He actually turned me on to Evian. I had never even heard of it. The next day, we went shopping in the Soul to Soul store. He found this jacket that he loved. Get to the, Bobby, I left my wallet in my hotel room. You know, I paid for it.
Shit, yeah, you paid.
Warner Brothers let me expense it. So that's the only time I took him out for dinners with this guy, Juggy Gales, never one-on-one in New York. It was always with a promoter named Juggy Gales, an independent promoter. And I paid plenty, but I never was one. I mean, for those who don't know, the R&B reps used to bring him fried chicken on Friday to the office for him to eat. I was never one that had to bring the chicken up. But I did buy him a beautiful Soul to Soul jacket.
Oh, the golden voice of Frankie.
But, I never really paid to get records played and never will.
So the importance of Frankie playing the record for a national record to really go.
Well, the guy had such a visibility and such a listening audience. It was the #1 show in New York, and it was a buying audience. I mean, those records were so great. Who wouldn't want to buy them? You heard Genius of Love on the radio. Who wouldn't run out to buy that?
Yeah,
so
really.
a lot of things broke through our dance department at Warner Brothers. They weren't getting it on the West Coast, but they were getting it on the East Coast. And then there was a program director named Mojo at WJLB in Detroit. And he was another one. I didn't really know him, but he picked up on those kind of records. That was also a, quote, colorless radio station that was deemed an R&B station. Right. And slowly but surely, other people picked up on it. You couldn't stop a record like Genius of Love. It was that big.
Well, New York radio also ruled the roost. I mean, people looking what's going on.
Well, it also it forced Barry Mayo at WRKS to play those kind of records too. I mean, RKS was a straight ahead R&B station, but those records became so big that they had to deal with them.
So everyone paid attention.
Had that big audience. It was such a crossover audience. It wasn't only black people listening to BLS. It was everybody.
Yeah, everybody in New York listened to that.
It was really the sound of New York. And so that Frankie Crocker and Larry Levan were so instrumental in helping me. We weren't thinking in those terms back then, but when I look back on it, those two people were so instrumental.
Big time.
And Tony Smith. He taught me a lot too.
Like, for example, see this picture, everybody? Take a good look. That's John Brown, Larry, Bobby, Thelma Houston, and Judy Weinstein, who was at Florida Record in those days.
That what I was taking. I was taking Thelma Houston around on a promo tour. Those were the MCA days, the early MCA days.
So that's, you see, I'm just showing how
two people have passed in that picture already.
Yes.
It's so sad.
How Larry's booth, what was going on Larry's booth. It wasn't a booth. It was the congregation area of a hangout.
Well, there were two parts of the booth. There was the part where Larry was. Then they had the coat room in the middle. And then there was like an area where his guests could stay. And they had a bowl of fruit or fruits out there for everybody to have, free drinks, not liquor, just, water, juices. And there was a couch there that was really, Larry's mother used to stay in where the couch was. And that's where his guests stayed. Most of them did not hover over him. I hovered over him. I was one of the privileged ones. But I moved from 322 East 90th Street to 200 West 16th Street so I could walk to the Paradise Garage. I moved apartments so I could walk there. And it literally was a 15-minute walk from my apartment to the garage. I love the garage. Those were like the greatest years of my life.
So now we're at Warner's. How long is the tenure, and how long is it you stay with them until this ends, till you move to your next position?
1984, I get a call from Gerald Busby or Richard Palmisi at MCA Records, and They wanted to create a dance department, and they flew me out to L.A.
But
it was a strange thing. So they flew me out to L.A. to hire me as the dance person. Okay? I was starting on March 12th, 1984. On March 9th, this was all a setup. They got me for cheap money. Let me tell you. I'll tell you, $47,500, okay? 1984. So March 9th, 1984, the Friday before, they let go of their pop promotion person, a guy named Sammy Vargas. Boom, I start on Monday. Hey, you're gonna be doing pop radio for us too. Like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't know nothing about these radio stations. I mean, I knew what they played, but I didn't know anybody. And they literally threw me into the wolves and gave me 2 jobs, which wound up being the greatest thing in the world for me. I got to meet a lot of new people at pop radio.
I became
the pop radio person besides the dance. So they let me hire somebody. In the long run, it was like, this is crazy. I'm like, I have no minutes to breathe here. And they let me hire an assistant who they made me fire in the long run. But I had an assistant working for me, and that was short-lived. And I was there 14 years at MCA Records.
Okay.
I got let go on April 23rd, 1998, and I was told to have everything out of my office by the next day.
All right. But
ironically, as soon as I went independent, they literally hired me like a month and a half later.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we'll talk about, because that's later on. But let's talk about the MC era. You got a lot of people you helped with their careers. Madonna. I mean, there's so many people. I mean, let's start from who's some of the first that you worked with there to start making things, get them promoted and get them to how we know them now. You know, the superstars they are.
Well, I mean, it's crazy that I was doing 2 jobs. So I was actually, besides doing the dance stuff, I was taking, I think I sent you this picture. I took like Meatloaf to the Yankee game to sing the national anthem. Of all people, I'm taking Meatloaf.
Let me show you. Look at this. He's got Meatloaf there.
I mean, that was crazy that I was, here I was. I didn't even know Meatloaf's records until I worked at MCA. But
you did. You did.
Was I instrumental in his career? Not really, but it was just like such a rush. I was taking this. I mean, I went underneath the tunnel at Yankee Stadium. I couldn't go near that area, but I was with Meatloaf, so I was able to go there and to walk onto the field and be there, like on the side there when Meatloaf was singing the national anthem. Like, this is crazy. This is going on. Like, this is nuts. But hey, we also was. But there was just so many. Bronski Beat, New Edition, just so many. Dan Hartman, Jody Watley, and there's a ton. Jody Watley, one of the biggest disappointments though in my career. In that,
tell us about that.
Well, she got Dance Artist of the Year for Billboard. We broke her. There's no doubt about it. We broke her through the clubs, even though she had been a member of Shalimar. Most people didn't know who Jody Watley was. And we got her a bunch of #1 dance records on Billboard. And she was Dance Artist of the Year. And she won the Grammy for Best New Artist. And she gets up there and thanks everybody and their mother from MCA except for the dance guy. And I was devastated. I'm watching this on TV and she's thanking everybody in MCA, from the garbage man to this and that. And me. Boo-hoo.
See what happens.
But Jody Watley was really a very sweet person.
That's what we say, unsung heroes, because you're quietly behind the scenes.
It's okay.
But so much in front of the scene to get things to be played, heard, get the placement right for that person. People don't realize how important that is.
And she's such a nice woman. She just I guess she forgot. Let's put it this way. She didn't mention anybody in the New York office, so I shouldn't be that slighted. But we did get her Dance Artist of the Year, so it was what it was. Now, let's put it this way. I guess she didn't want me. supposed to be a joke. Don't you want me? It went past you. Goodbye.
Don't you want me, baby?
Such a great record. Don't you want me to love you? Hold you, kiss. Yeah, she was yes, Joe. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah, she was a Soul Train dancer. Her and Jeffrey Daniels and Howard Hewitt, which was Shalimar. I'm sorry, I really wasn't looking at the chat. Oh, let me see if anybody asking one question.
That's all right. You're telling us information that people are learning. See how we would never really known that, but you're watching the Grammys and you're waiting to be mentioned, and you're like,
well, first of all, I didn't know that she was going to win.
Of course, I mean I couldn't know, but then when she
won, it was like, oh, and she started thanking everybody, like, oh well, I'll cry tomorrow. But she's a very sweet girl.
That's tough. It's tough. No, of course. And you know what? They're good people, and they treat you with respect and care. But nobody remembers when they hit that number. You're like, hey, I was there. I was helping you. Like I said, you're behind the scenes, keeping it going. And the general public doesn't realize that, really. The people in our industry know how important your work is and what you do. But unless it's shown and explained, it gets lost in translation, Right.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, even from the angle of today of Twitch, like the only ones that knew me were the DJs who knew me. Like, nobody knew who I was on Twitch because I'm in the back. Like when I stream, I feel like I'm almost making new inroads because I never was known as somebody who plays records. Even though I played in New York for a couple of years, I was never really known as somebody who plays records. So this is like a whole new life for me. It's
new career.
It is. It's incredible. Like people are getting to know me as an entertainer playing music too, besides being in the background.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I want to show a picture of how important we talk about.
Hold on a second. Let me just tell Mix Matt, I really don't recall.
What was the question?
First record went to one.
Oh. Okay, so let me show a picture. Let's start with some of the luminaries are no longer with us.
Sure.
What happened with certain things? You all know how he said he visited DJs, right? So he visited this man, and he got a special phone call from him when he was promoting a record. We're gonna let him tell you the story. David Mancuso from which actually was anniversary yesterday, Valentine's Day, 53 years from the first Loft Party.
Well, David was another one who had a lot of trust in me. He owned his own club in 99 Prince Street. It was where he lived, and he also entertained on Saturday nights. God, I should have sent you my Loft membership card. I should have sent you the picture. But the Loft membership card was a picture of the Little Rascals, and on the other side was your name. So David would stay open 2, 3 in the afternoon on a Sunday, and I would go there sometimes with Larry, sometimes with David DePino, sometimes alone. But I was a pretty good Loft attendee.
Mm-hmm.
Those days, I would just go from the garage to the Loft and stay up on Sundays, and it's a little different. I wasn't sending out emails on Sunday night. Those days hadn't arrived yet.
What emails? It wasn't even a beeper yet. It was a cell phone. Everybody,
there was no such emails.
Wait, no cell phone, no beeper,
no cameras, no phones with cameras.
Zero.
So I was involved with a record called White Horse. Seymour Stein this is when I worked at Warner. Seymour Stein was the president of Sire Records. And he's another one. With him and I got along. Sire Records was distributed through Warner's. I was so privileged to work, promote music from Sire. And Seymour Stein and I got along. I mean, we still do. Got along great. And one day he said to me, I have this album. Can you please listen to it? It was an album by a group called Laid Back. And there was a single out in Europe already called Sunshine Reggae. And I listened to the album and I said, Seymour, there's a track here called White Horse that could be major, major, major if you had the right mix.
Okay.
And he said, well, can you do it? And I had met John Patoka, an engineer. I believe I met him through Jelly Bean, if I'm not mistaken. And I said, sure. So he let me go into the studio with John Patoka, an amazing, amazing engineer. And those were days when you spliced the tapes, and I was telling John, do this, do this, do this, do this, this. And we had tapes all over the wall, and he put them together the way I wanted it. Anyway, the record came out, and it was a pretty big record.
Oh, smash. What are you talking about?
And one day, David Mancuso, who never called me, on a Friday called me and said, are you coming down to the club on Sunday? Or can you come to the club on Sunday? Sure. Can you make it a certain time? Okay. So I get to the club, and he literally had a real white horse sitting at the front of the club for me. In my honor, I guess. I don't know what you would call it, but David was
eccentric like that.
Yeah. And there was another record I told you before when we were discussing some things. I promoted this record by this group called The Girls Can't Help It, called Baby Doll. And that was another record that David just loved. And one day I come to the club, and sure enough, he has this doll for me. I don't even know where it is. This gorgeous doll that he brought for me. Like, what am I going to do with a doll? But nonetheless, it was a beautiful thing he bought for me. So David, David and I, we bonded I don't know how many people bonded with him on music. Like,
not many.
He trusted me.
Not many.
He was another one I was allowed to stand by him.
Okay.
And I was never like looking over his shoulder, but I was by him. Never a pain in the ass. I always learned never to be a pain in the ass to any DJ. Never talk to any DJ unless they talk to you. And maybe now it's a little different, but I would keep quiet and just like watch and observe.
Sponge, basically, right? Like a sponge.
Well, I wouldn't say I was a sponge. I would say more like a piece of the furniture, maybe.
Really quiet. Jesus Christ, like you're just there. Oh my God. So you mentioned, of course, Seymour Stein and Sire. Okay, so everyone he's seen over the years, you've been on talk shows.
I should have sent you a picture of the two of us.
That would have been nice.
Me.
It's okay.
Stupid me.
It's all right. You do. He's got great pictures, by the way. So we was able to get some really good photos when we had time to sit and have breakfast together this past Sunday. So we're going to talk about the Siren moment. So, of course, this artist that everybody knows today is going to do her 40th anniversary tour. This gentleman, Bobby, was in the beginning part of the 40th anniversary, in the beginning of the start, and helped along the way. So, of course, the two there, you mentioned Jelly Bean before, and we're going to talk about Madonna. You know, how can we not mention not Madonna, because that's a big part of Bobby's life in the music business too. You know, his success with Madonna. So go ahead, share this with us, Bobby.
Well, first of all, let me answer Mix Matt's question. Hello, Matt. I've been friends with Shep Pettibone for about 40 years, and actually just was chatting with him the other day. I'm trying to get Shep to come to Twitch. He's kind of like out of the music business, and he doesn't even have a Twitch account. And I'm like, Shep. Come. There he is. There's Shep right there. This was taken at his birthday party a couple of years ago. That's Hosh Gorilli on Shep's to the far left. That's Shep, Leslie Doyle, myself, and a girl named Duffy Macri, a friend of Shep's, who actually lives in Shep's apartment on 69th Street.
Okay. He kept the apartment. He did keep the apartment then.
He's kept the apartment. Yeah, he has an apartment on 69th Street.
Okay, so we're back to this era now. Jelly Bean, the Fun House, Madonna. Enlighten us your story.
Oh, I didn't know they sold that apartment, Hosh. I thought he kept it. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Hosh Gorilli, for the
Hosh Gorilli, welcome in.
Welcome in, Hosh. Thank you very much. Hosh,
let's do a couple of quick hellos. Anastasia Beaverhausen, Kathy Bates, hello, nice to see you. Timothy Callahan, Pyro Lion, I know is in school. Reggae Patty, hello. Rob DeBoom, the Boomer is in the house. Patty Furicelli, I don't know who the Lobster Live is. JD Baby, hello, they're gorgeous. Reggae Patty, I said. Red One, hello. Patty Furicelli, Timothy, we said. Ortho Ben Flack is in the house. Moni Smiles, hello there. Gil Knight, I don't know. Moni Smiles, hello. Mark Tiny, I love you. Joe Ventura, hello there. Joe Big Speaker Music. John Homan from Pittsburgh, Metro Mix. San Francisco Butch Boy, the man and the only, the Joshua Tree of San Francisco. Red One, I think I said you. Olivia, hello. Bushy, welcome in. Let's see. Thomas Blondette from DC, welcome in. Hello there. Nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Oh, let's see if I miss anybody else here. John Homan, I said. Lenny Fontana, welcome in.
Check up here.
Just scrolling up here. Don't think I missed Mixed Man. It said hello. Guy 0195, welcome in. Hello there. Welcome in from the New England area, I believe. Oh, DJ Takane is in the house. I didn't see you in here. Okay, I'm scrolling up here. I don't want to waste your time, Lenny, but just want to say hello to some people here. Timothy Callahan, hello. Joe V. Let's see. I think
you covered everybody.
Annie Colombo, I don't know. Freckles, hey, DJ Freckles, welcome in. I spotted you. That was a bad joke. Spotted Freckles.
Bobby, come on. Give us, we want to hear the dirt. Okay, so Madonna, let's go. I want to hear it.
All right, Mark Kamen, Digital Ecstasy, hello there. GK
All right, enough of the handles. You know, everybody, listen to what I'm going to say. Bobby's no longer thanking everyone for coming in. Thank you, everyone, for coming in. We all love you and watching the show. I really want to hear Bobby tell the story. Okay. Because this ain't Twitch Friday night, Saturday night. This is historical. So, okay, Bobby, go ahead. So now we go. Once again, Mark Jelly Bean rocks the house.
Mark Heyman's good buddy of mine.
May he rest in peace.
Danceteria, Saturday night, worked at Island Records. Michael Rosenblatt, A&R guy, Sire Records. Michael Rosenblatt, myself, and Mark were kind of like a trio. We'd hang out at Danceteria. Mark was generally my stop before Larry. I would go to Danceteria, hang out in the booth with Mark. He had a very small booth, but we were able to smoke pot in there, and it was just fun.
You could never do that now. You can't even smoke anywhere for smoking pot in the club. But go ahead. And I actually took Mark to see Larry, introduced him. He had never met him. But Mark was heavily influenced by Larry, as a lot of us were. Madonna was a hanger out at Danceteria, and then I guess she confronted Mark, and they became more than just record friends, if you get the drift of things. And she cut a track called Everybody with him. And Mark, because we were such good friends with Michael Rosenblatt, too, from Sire, who I worked with, he brought the record up to Sire. Michael Rosenblatt brought it to Seymour, and Seymour signed it. And I was Madonna's promoter for Everybody. It was the first single we released. If you notice on the jacket, there's no picture of her. It's just an artist picture. I don't know who's. I say it's Mike Cruz. Well, I guessed it. Mike Cruz never knows when I'm on. Let me tell him to put you on, okay? Hold on. Yo, bro, put on Lenny Fontana on Facebook or on Twitch. Okay, Lenny Fontana official. See you later. Sorry about that. So anyhow, that's a promotion.
Started promoting Everybody.
This would be in his office the same way. Hang on 1 second, we pick this up, boom, and then come back to the conversation. That's how he used to be in his office too, like that. 1 second.
Madonna actually a few times would sit in my office and watch me on the phone. Okay. She wanted to learn everything. She was a smart cookie, let me tell you. So we started, I took around Everybody, started creating a buzz, the same thing with an acetate, took her around to clubs, and obviously the record became massive. It was a huge, huge club record, and which was followed up by Physical Attraction, and what was the second one? Not Burning Up. Physical Attraction and Lucky Star. And then we broke the album, and I was kind of like her right-hand person. I was taking her around and introducing her to DJs. We went on the road together. She had 3 dancers, Bags, her brother. What was her name? Not Eleanor. It was another girl. It was 3 of us. So 5 of us would go on. Well, we went to Boston together. We didn't go to Boston. I take that back. We went to Miami together. And literally from the day one, I kind of held her hand and took her around to New York DJs, introduced her. Funny story, on Fridays, DJs would come to my office to pick up their records, but we had a select group that would come in at 6 o'clock at night. And Friday was the pickup day, which I previously mentioned, for all the record labels. So I would have a select group that would come in 6 o'clock at night and come to see me last. And we'd sit around. Well, Madonna did not sing Sidewalk Talk. That was actually Elisa Fiorello. Madonna did backups, just FYI. But that was a Jelly Bean production, Sidewalk Talk, that was produced. The artist was Elise Fiorello, not Madonna, but she did sing on it, correct.
Yeah, in the background.
And she also sang with the Breakfast Club. But anyhow, so we used to have a gathering of maybe 10 DJs who would come to my office on Fridays. And we'd listen to first of all, 6 o'clock Friday, everybody was out of the office at Warner Brothers. It's Friday, 6 o'clock, nobody wanted to be there. So I would have like the whole floor to myself. So we would sit there and smoke pot and get high, and nobody would say anything because there was nobody there. And we'd listen to all the records that everybody had brought from the other labels. And it was great because for me, I was getting an education on what everybody else was promoting. And I got to hear everybody else's records, the Sony records, the Chrysalis, the RCA, the Polydor. There would be somebody there everybody had records to play. So we would sit there for a couple of hours. Well, one time she came there and I was playing a record.
Okay.
She went and took the needle off the record. And I looked at her and I said, well, now I would say it differently, but I should have said, bitch, you don't do that. But
yeah, right, bitch, what are you doing? Touching my shit.
I said, Madonna, don't ever do that again. This is not your party. I'll never forget
Good
that.
For you. Good for you.
Nowadays, she'd probably slap me in the face, but she wanted to learn. She was sitting with some of the major DJs in New York and getting to see things. So it was a good learning experience for her.
Who were those DJs that would normally come around on Friday night, would say?
Eddie Crivet, John Matarazzo, Danny Pucciarelli, I think, used to come. Kenny Carpenter, James Richardson. God damn, I can't even remember. It was a select group, but it was a lot of fun. Obviously, Larry was not one of them. He didn't come there, but we had a select group of DJs, and it was just a lot of fun. We would did Mario Rios used to come? I'm trying to think if he was one of them. That was a long time ago. John Matarazzo, I remember him. George Rodriguez used to come every once in a while. I mean, it was a select group, but it was just so much fun.
Yeah, of course.
Red One, I used to have a listening set. I'm going to just repeat this quickly for Red One. I used to have a listening party in my office. Madonna was there one time, and she went and took the needle off one of my records. And I said, don't you ever do that again. This is not your party.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so her and I, on our tour one time, we went to the Funhouse. And I introduced her to this DJ named Jelly Bean. And their history doesn't need to be told. They became an item, and he worked on a bunch of her records, and there you go. But yes, I introduced the two of them. I'm the culprit.
Shame on you.
But yeah, I had some great experiences with her, and I mean, I'll just first of all, New York radio, Frankie Crocker broke the record,
right?
Because he started playing it once Larry started playing it. He heard it at the garage, and it was like, full blitz after that. Everybody was really never a big national radio record. The Warners never really got behind it because there was no album to back it up. Holiday was really her first big radio record, and it was great. It was great. Not that I'm going to toot my horn here, but I will a little bit. I am on the A&E biography about her.
Yeah,
they took a picture of me, and on the A&E biography, they show me. It's like such an honor. Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, they actually came to my office and interviewed me and put makeup on me, and they had this umbrella with lighting. And I mean, to have me put makeup on, you got to be kidding me. But they did. And I'm in a lot of books about Madonna. I'm in Seymour Stein, really, in his biography, really lauded me tremendously. And let's face it, I took her around when nobody cared about her. And look what she became. It's history. We actually did a show in Key West. We did Casanovas in Miami, into the Copa, and then the next day we drove to Key West. And it was Madonna and I in one car, and her dancers and her brother. They were all in another car. I don't know where they were, but anyhow, like I said, I was able to spend money back in those days like there was no tomorrow. And we got a convertible, and the two of us driving to Key West together, and I'm smoking marijuana left and right. And she and I were listening to the radio, singing songs together. And I look back at it now, I can't believe that actually happened. But we were like singing songs together, Madonna and I. It's a crazy thing. So anyhow, we did a show at the Copa that night, and it was pouring rain. And, well, I don't know about that, Matt. I think Madonna would have done pretty well for herself, but I helped her. You're very funny, Red One.
Okay.
So anyhow, we did a show. It was pouring rain. Maybe 25 people were at the club that night. It's crazy. Yeah, there was nobody there. Nobody knew who she was. We were just breaking her. But it was quite an experience.
See what we talk about, everybody? Promotions and working up the ladder. That's perseverance.
But let's face it, she started from the ground up.
Well, I remember
if there's ever an artist that started at the bottom, it was her.
The bottom of the barrel.
But she wanted to know everything. I give her a lot of credit.
Okay.
It's funny. Years later, a couple of years ago, I saw her perform at Barclays Center in Brooklyn. And I saw Liz Rosenberg, who was her publicity person. And I said, Liz, is she going to see anybody after the show? She don't see anybody after the show anymore. And I looked at her and I said, damn, Liz, I remember she would have talked to the garbage man if it meant helping her. Not that way, but, she wanted to learn. And she was very open to whatever it took. And I give her a lot of credit.
Yeah, me too.
She wanted that career.
Now, the question is, was she, people say she's not such a great singer. Is it more that she's a show person? Or is it more the stage side of her? Or is it just the way it just all packaged?
She had great songs. She had a good voice. And she emitted sex. And people love sex.
And sex sells, everyone.
Sex sells.
Still to this day. Hell yeah.
To this day. They had great songs. The songs are amazing. I mean,
look at this. Yeah, they still hold. They still hold today.
Is anybody playing American Pie by Madonna these days? I don't know. You tell me.
No, I don't think so. Not that one. No. But again, here we go. Here's another big disco queen that he worked with, Donna Summer.
Summer. Well, I didn't work. Look, when I was a club person before I was a record industry person, how much I love Donna Summer. And then when I worked at Warner's, we distributed Geffen. And she was on Geffen. So I promoted The Wanderer, State of Independence. And I got to meet Donna Summer. And like, oh my God, Donna Summer. What a freaking rush. Here I am meeting somebody who like I treasured as a dancer and as a music person. And wow, I was meeting Donna Summer. How crazy was that? But it was pretty amazing. And obviously, when I left Warner's, I was not involved with her again. But when I became an independent promoter, I got to work some of her records again on Epic. And then all of a sudden, I became good friends with Bruce Cedeno, her husband. And I was hired for a lot of her records. And I got to know her, relatively well to the point that I could bring my family backstage to meet her.
Oh.
And she treated them like they were promoting the record. She was really, really good. A good story about Donna Summer that I've told before, but I think it's kind of relevant. So I was at a show in Connecticut, backstage with her husband, Bruce Cedeno. He was part of Brooklyn Dreams. And she was singing Bad Girls. And I looked at him and I said, damn, doesn't she get tired of singing this song?
Mm.
And he looked at me and he said, look at the way that people are screaming. Could you ever get tired of that? And I got it. I totally got it. You have people screaming for those songs. It must be a rush to sing them every time. How many times you can sing it, but if they're going to scream, why not, right?
Yeah, you might as well, right? That's her life. May she rest in peace.
Yes. When she died, it was very sad, but they actually let me, I still remain friends with her husband to this day. Nice guy, Bruce Cedeno, really nice. And she was so kind, let me tell you. Such a nice woman. And what a voice, right?
Oh, yeah. Now I'm going to take you from what we would call from a great diva voice to a completely different voice, and how you were hired to handle this project from Yoko Ono. Walking on Thin Ice.
Okay, well, I worked it twice, actually. I worked the original when I was at Warner Brothers, and then I got hired as an independent when they did the remixes years later. So when I worked it the first time, I was just the promo guy and promoted it, and it was one of those strange records that just took off. And again, I will give Larry Levan a lot of credit. He played that record to death. And when Larry played a record in New York and he had DJs hanging out in that booth, it spread like wildfire. And that was another record that Frankie Crocker played that the R&B person, was scratching their head. He wasn't playing Larry Graham. He was playing Yoko Ono. So years later, zoom ahead, and I'm promoting one of her singles through Rob Stevens, her dance music manager, great guy. And Rob says, if this record goes to 1 on Billboard, she wants to have you over to her house. So that was the stipulation. Well, I always bust my ass anyway, but that one, I got to meet Yoko Ono. Holy shit. So we got the record to 1, and I got invited to Yoko's house in the Dakota. You had to go through 2 security people to get up there, get in an elevator. The elevator opens up. You're not in the hallway. You're in her apartment. And we sat at this big table, and she's serving coffee and tea. And before I went there, I did a little bit of research, and I knew she was into fracking. Not in, fracking what it was. And I had a whole discussion with her about fracking, and this guy didn't come up here to talk about my music. He wants to talk about fracking. And I think that really impressed her, that I wasn't there bugging her about music. I was talking to her about fracking. And I was dying to see the apartment. And we were in this room by the elevator, and she had a big TV screen, and oh my God, I want to see this apartment so badly, but I can't say that. Well, Rob Stevens says, I'd love to, would you take a picture? I'm going to try to do it in the best way possible. Let's go to the other side of the apartment. Can you hear me? Let's go to the other side of the apartment. There's a room there that overlooks Central Park. I want you to see it, and we've got the best picture there. Like, okay, we're going through the apartment. Every room had a piano. Again, I'm going to try my best. John loved to have a piano in every room. Like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I saw the entire apartment. She had one room. I may get killed for saying these things, but she had one room where it was just her hats, her fedoras. Let's put it this way. Her room with her clothing was bigger than my room, my bedroom.
Right. That's just that. Right. That one room. But
she obviously liked me. Look, I got her a #1 record. Let's face it. That was one reason to like me. And I think talking about something else other than music really impressed her. I had the same incident with what's his name? Randy from American Idol. Randy
Jackson.
I met him once, and like I said, I try to do research when I'm in it, and I knew he played with Jerry Garcia, and we sat down for lunch. So tell me, what was it like playing with Jerry Garcia? He looked at me like, what the fuck are you asking me? Are you kidding me? This is what you want to ask me? And I said, yeah. And I think he loved it.
And his answer?
Come on. Anybody would play with Jerry Garcia. It's like an honor.
Yeah.
I mean, to play with Jerry Garcia, my God.
For all you guys
the only person I've ever been starstruck. I was standing. I'm a big Grateful Dead fan. WNEW-FM was having a week of interviews at the Hard Rock Cafe when it was on 57th Street, and Lorraine Caruso, when the music director, invited me up there. And Jerry Garcia. This is before cell phones and pictures, and Jerry Garcia was up there by himself, getting ready to do an interview, and I'm standing as close as we are on this screen. And I didn't know what to say to the guy. I couldn't say anything. I was tongue-tied. Like, oh, this is so sad. I don't know what to say to him. And I didn't say a word to him. Jerry Garcia right next to me, and I couldn't talk to him.
Couldn't even say hello. Nothing.
I couldn't say hello. I didn't know what to. I was nervous. So
that happens. What are you going to do?
The only time I've ever really been starstruck.
Because you're a Deadhead.
That was my life. It still is. I still listen to the Dead. I still go to the Dead and Company shows. I mean, it's 50 years. See? 50 years ago, 1973 was the first time I saw the Dead. Never stopped listening. Did a lot of LSD to the Grateful Dead.
I bet.
A lot. And never look back and say, I'm sorry I did it.
Tell the experience of what that's like to be a part of that, dropping LSD.
Well, I always thought that the people who go to a Grateful Dead show are of a certain demeanor. They're calm, they're peaceful, there's no fights. You never see a fight at the Grateful Dead show. Everybody's there for the music and doing their drugs and having a good old time.
Right.
And the music was such a bonding thing there that it was just, it's just a certain element to me that goes to see the Grateful Dead. Very peaceful, which is what I like.
Yeah, I can see that.
I've never been in a fight in my life. I've never been in a fist fight. I don't like fights. I don't like guns. I'll be the first to tell you I'm so much for gun control. And I don't like boxing. I'm a sports freak, but I really don't like boxing. I never understood the idea of somebody paying to go watch people beat up each other. It's just not my thing. I don't get it.
Sure. Across the pond to another superstar who was knighted, Sir Elton John.
Well,
Bobby has the direct line to call Sir Elton John.
Well, this is another one that you get to meet somebody you idolize. Except
records?
So when I got, Elton was on MCA Records, then he went to Geffen. Then he came back to MCA Records. Ortho loves his weed. I love it. Anyhow, Elton got re-signed to MCA Records. His first single, I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That. I'm pretty sure I hired Shep Pettibone. How could you not? Shep was amazing.
Yep.
And we took the record out to the clubs. I got to meet Elton, and he was so thrilled that he had a record being played in the clubs. And I don't know if this was MCA Records paying for me, Elton paying for me, but I went on 2 trips with him alone. I mean, I went on a trip with him to Chicago to, just a show. Like I said, I don't know if he sent me, asked for me to come, or MCA had me go as his chaperone. To this day, I have no idea. But we did the show in Chicago in his amphitheater. It's a good story. We did a show about 20 miles out of Chicago. Now, I was the dance guy. I wasn't a VP of dance. I was just the plain old dance rep there. And him and I are staying at the Peninsula Hotel in Chicago. And they had a helicopter take him down to the show. So we had to go down to the pier, and him and I were in the car service together. And we get to the pier, and the senior VP of sales for MCA Records, this guy named Harold Solman, is there. And there was room in the helicopter for 2 people. And this is the senior VP of sales, and I'm just the freaking peon dance guy. And he says to Harold Solman, "Sorry, Harold, we don't have room for you." And I was like the low man on the totem pole, is just the dance rep. And here I was going in a helicopter with Elton John. But he actually really took to me. I'll say it, and I know everybody's going to call me this now, but he called me. There was an artist in Britain called Sandy Shaw, Sandie. She had a bunch of top pop hits in England. And he decided he was going to call me Sandy. So I was Sandy Shaw to him.
Sandy Shaw, everyone.
Sandy Shaw, that's what he called me. He used to call me Sandy. But he actually dedicated a song one night in Madison Square Garden to me. And,
Sandy Shaw? Sandy Shaw.
No, he didn't call me. He didn't call me Sandy. No, he didn't call me Sandy. But and I went away with him once to West Palm Beach to a resort, and again, I don't know if he sent me, asked me to come, if MCA sent me, but I went away with him for a couple of days. Him and his manager, John Reed. We had a bodyguard, and there were 3 guys from Boston he took down. So it was 6 of us.
What do you do when
you're in a beautiful resort and not paying for it and being with Elton John? Go figure.
So you're having dinner and stuff, and you're not really discussing
it. Yeah, we had our meals together, of course.
You're not really discussing business. You're just talking about what's happening around at that time, current events and things. People don't realize you're not constantly talking about
a regular conversation like you and I would have.
Yeah, right. So how are you? Are you enjoying?
And again, he was another one that I took my family to meet, and he was so gracious. Embraced them. Really, really nice. Great guy and such a benevolent person, and donated so much money to his AIDS foundation. He's really a beautiful person. And of course, the music speaks for itself.
Oh shit, yeah. The music is phenomenal.
Look, I got hired for the last 2 Elton John records for Interscope. And you know what a rush it was for me to still be working his records to this day? It's an honor for me. And, especially I'm doing this so long, and for them to hire me for Elton John. And
you talk about the Cole Hart record? The Cole Hart record and the other one you did?
Yes. Britney Spears. So,
Cole Hart.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure if there's another one coming, I guess.
You got to get that ring. The phone will ring to you.
Yes. Yes. I actually would really love to go see his show one more time in Europe before he retires. So we'll see. luckily, I kind of have the connection, so Interscope would, be able to get me tickets. I'd have to pay for them most probably, but they'll get me good seats. So we'll see.
And
Elton's amazing.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, he's amazing. He's still amazing. He's going strong. I mean, it's sad that he's going to retire, but everybody has an end to this. His end is now.
Well, I know somebody who knows him in a roundabout way, and they say his life is touring.
Yeah. So how's that go?
Watch, he'll retire and unretire. Someone said that to me. We'll see.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, what happens when you want to go back out? What do you do? Make an announcement? Oh, I'm coming back out again. We're selling tickets again.
You never know. And, people would flock to see him again. Look, he's 70-something years old and still sells out tours.
God bless.
Look at Madonna. She's selling out this tour. I mean, I looked to buy tickets, and the prices are astronomical.
Yeah, they're crazy. Everything's crazy now. It's crazy to try to get into
What do I think of the Elton John buy-up? I thought it was pretty good. So Elton was, amongst other things, certainly one of the highlights of my life, to meet him and get to know him. I saw his boyfriend a couple of years ago in a restaurant, and I gave him my card and said, tell him to give me a shout, but I don't know if he ever did or what.
I mean, didn't give the card, probably thinking that you're trying to pick him up. You want to pick him up?
I don't think that was ever the intention, so I don't think I know one thing, he would never have to worry about that.
Take us to the Khan, the legendary, iconic Chaka Khan.
Well, again, blessed to work these records. Warner Brothers, an amazing label. Ain't Nobody came out. I'll tell you the thing that stands out most in my mind about the Chaka Khan experience. There was a cut on the album called I Know You, I Live You.
Oh.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, when that album came out, and this goes to show you the quantity of albums that I was provided with, as opposed to today, where, like you said, these 12 inches don't sell. I Know You, I Live You. When I heard it, like, oh my God, I literally I'm not going to take credit for it, but I sent the album out to the list of Billboard reporters and promoted I Know You, I Live You as an album cut. Nobody else in the company was promoting it. If you notice, it was never a domestic 12-inch.
I know. I played mine off the album. I
promoted it off the album, and it became so big.
Because of that. And
it's classic. Oh. But it never was a domestic 12-inch. We never promoted it as a 12-inch. I promoted it as an album cut. Nowadays, like, who plays album cuts? Well, first of all, it's not available, but vinyl, most of them. But I promoted that from an album. Chaka was sweet. Met her a few times. Very, very sweet. Yeah, Patty. LP cut only.
Before I get to the current stuff, just want to touch this. One of our big disco records, of course, that was during your RFC era. And I see some faces in there we know.
Well, to the far left, next to Gino Sosio was in the middle.
Mark Riley.
To the left of him is to the right of him is Mark Riley. The pretty woman in front of Gino was Thorne Maxwell. She worked at WBLS.
Yep.
And the other girl is Mary Thomas, a DJ at WBLS, who went, I believe, to RKS. I think she's still on the air somewhere.
Yeah. She was on KISS at the end, 98.7. Yep.
That was RFC, one of his first signings, and Gino Sosio danced. I mean, come on, massive. I don't know what happened to him though. I mean, his kind of career seemed like it disintegrated.
Yeah, it went into.
Don't know why.
He's up in Canada. He's still alive. That I know.
But I don't know if you do want to. I do have one. I mean, I've told it before, but there is an interesting Larry story with the Prince record. If you want to show that one.
Yeah.
It's a good story. It's a fun story. I took I don't know if you have that picture available. You don't need to show it. Anyway,
I have Bobby.
when I was the dance guy at Warner's, Prince had come out with in 1999, I think it was. There you go. And by the way, that's Jackie Thomas. I said next to me, the R&B rep. That's Prince in the middle. Andre Simone, his guitar player.
Yep.
Lynn, I forget her last name, to Andre, and then next to Prince is Alberta Rhodes, the publicity person for Warner's. Anyhow, so luckily one day they called me up, and Vanity was coming out with Nasty Girls, and they said Prince and Vanity are going to be in New York. They want to go to a club. So of course we're going to see Larry Levan. Well, Larry knew we were coming. And like I said, the Paradise Garage, just like this screen, was split. The DJ booth, and then there was a place for the visitors. Introduced Prince and Vanity, and then we go to the other side to watch over the dance floor. We're standing there. First of all, Prince did not say a word to me the entire night. Everything was through his manager, Steve Fognoli. All the communication was through Steve Fognoli. Prince didn't say boo to me. Anyway, we're there for about an hour, and Larry hadn't played either one of their records. And like, I'm fucking dying. Like, this is so embarrassing to me. And Steve says to me, Prince is ready to go. And like, oh my God, this is so not happening to me. I was so embarrassed. And I went over to Larry and I said, they're ready to go. We're leaving. He goes, you can't leave. And I said, we're leaving. He wants to leave. You can't leave. And then he played like an hour, whatever Prince records were available, and Nasty Girls, he wailed every single one.
Magic turned on,
I was
right?
so embarrassed. Like this, I'm taking them to see Larry, and he's not playing their records. But he did. I mean, he literally went into the catalog and played whatever was available, so Prince could stay and he could show off. Great times.
Yeah. And also to have that kind of power.
Yeah. Years later, I wanted to get involved with Prince again. I wrote a letter to his studio in Minneapolis, and I enclosed a picture of him and I together, but I never got a response. It happens. But, you know, all that experience at Warner Brothers helped create a job at MCA Records. So the Warner Brothers days were just totally, totally amazing. And I was a young kid. I was in my, 20s. I was a kid taking around. Like I said, I look back now, it's a whole different feel than when it was actually going on.
Yeah. And of course, you're a smooth operator with Sade too.
Yeah, well, that was quite an experience. Columbia Records was having a listening session for her album. There were maybe 200-300 people at Lincoln Center. I don't know how I got invited, but I got invited, and hey, here was the opportunity, photo op. But literally, she talked to me for like 5-10 minutes, and talked music and career and briefly, small talk, but hey, meeting Sade too. Come on.
Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, that was amazing. I keep hearing she has music coming out. She has music coming out, but I haven't seen it yet. But I'm hearing this for a long time now. But Sade, come on, to meet Sade, woo, gorgeous too. Gorgeous in person. And sweet. Grateful. Great voice. Great. Let's face it, her music speaks for itself again.
Sure. When house music started out, later part of the garage, and then of course, New York, you were at MCA at that time. You discovered a record in the early 90s that you signed with a young group that was just coming up with Teddy Douglas and them, called the Barefoot Boys.
True.
How did you find that record and what made you sign it? I know it's a great record, of course. It's got the Eleanor Mills vocal in it and all that tonight. But you got to give us the background story, because that was an interesting signing for a major to pick up on, and such a different kind of record for its time.
Well, I was at, I don't even know if it was called Twilight. I think it was called Sound Factory still back then. Junior Vasquez was playing this record. I ran up to the booth. What the heck is this? He goes, it's a record that's not signed yet. Thursday afternoon, that was a Saturday night. Thursday afternoon, the deal was signed. That quickly. We sold so many 12 inches of that record. Like they, for the money that I don't even want to disclose how much we paid for it. It was so little. And I wouldn't say it put Basement Boys on the map because it was actually quoted as those guys. I don't even recall if it was before Crystal Waters or after. But we sold, MCA Records must have made a fortune on that because they paid almost nothing for that. And we sold a shitload of 12 inches.
Meanwhile, very little that you had to put into it because it was a great record and a big return.
Big.
Right?
Big return. And it was such a great record. It was massive. Massive. And
I bet you a lot of people listening to this have no idea what we're talking about. Those guys' record. And I'm saying, you need to hear this. If you have never
man, I want to make love to him tonight.
And over and over.
Right. It was, I mean, literally, I ran to that. Well, first of all, getting into Junior's Vasquez booth was not that easy, but luckily they knew me there. So, tell you that I want to make love to you tonight. Ooh, girlfriend, work it. Such a great
I got to give Tony Humphries credit too, because he worked that record on Kiss Master Mix.
Everybody worked it.
That was a record everybody had on tape because Teddy got that,
played that record. I mean, if you didn't, it's crazy.
Yeah, Teddy got that tape around, and that thing Junior was playing it. And another big thing, you know, here we go. Now you experience garage, everybody. Now let's talk about how you're right there again. Sound Factory's bought in. You're right there in that whole mecca, listening to music, promotions guy, and playing A&R man now, because you actually became more of an A&R guy. Well,
I wanted to be an A&R guy, but they never classified me as an A&R guy. But I did get to choose a lot of the remixes for MCA, but they never made me an A&R. They always, I mean, there was an A&R job open. I'll tell you something. So there was an A&R job open, and I wanted it so badly. And they gave it to somebody else, and I was fucking livid. And they thought they were going to make me happy. They gave me a $20,000 raise to keep me happy, and that did not make me happy. I wanted that A&R job. They wanted me, and you're too valuable in promotion. That's what they told me. So they put $20,000 into my paycheck. I could give a flying about that. I wanted that job. Money ain't gonna help. You can't buy me.
So who's the A&R job that you would have gotten?
I'd rather not say. Oh, I'll tell it because you know something. He's a very, very good person, and he did not know. He did not know this whole situation, and I work with him a lot now, and he's a great, great, great guy. Carmen Cacciatore.
Oh, she's a dog, Carmen.
And he's a great guy, and I held nothing against him. It wasn't his fault. They wanted to keep me in promotion.
That was it. But was this pre his RCA job? Or
yes. He quit RCA to come work at MCA.
Right. Okay. So
I hold nothing against Carmen. He's a wonderful human being.
Oh yes, wonderful.
I talked to him constantly on the phone. It was not his fault, but I wanted that job so badly. But you know, things happen for a reason. But $20,000, that didn't make me happy. I was happy making $400 more a week. Let's face it. Who wouldn't be? But mentally, I wasn't happy.
When you went out on your own as an independent promoter, was there a fear that you couldn't do what you were normally used to doing, or having that expense account and having that cushion? Or
I've never had a fear about anything in the record business.
some didn't make it, Bobby. That came, that got let go. You know that.
Well, I got let go for political reasons. They asked me, I could have stayed there. They asked me to switch to hip hop. And there was a girl named Nancy Levin, may she rest in peace. But I literally said to her, I don't want to talk about hoes. I'm going to tell you exactly what I said. I don't want to talk about hoes. I don't want to talk about violence. I don't want to talk about sex. I don't want to talk about drugs. And I guarantee you that Funk Master Flex does not want to talk to me. I said, I can't fake it. If I ain't feeling the music, I can't fake it.
Yes. If it's
and they told me to take a walk. I had 7 months to go on a contract. I was a VP of promotion. I was getting paid $2,500 a week, $5,000, the paycheck. I had a choice. I got let go on April 23rd, 1998. My contract was over November 30th. I had a choice of taking less money on the dollar or getting paid a normal salary till November 30th, but it was a no compete, and I couldn't do anything working against. I would compete with MCA Records, so I couldn't promote records, and I took the 7 months off and partied. I took a house on Fire Island for the summer and had a blast. I didn't know what the heck I was going to do, but you get.
That's right, and I want people to understand that. Like, what do you do?
$5,000 thrown into your bank account every 2 weeks of doing nothing. Like, damn, this is kind of like the life. Living on the beach and getting $5,000 thrown into my account. Hey, come on, who wouldn't like that?
No, of course. For the next 7 months is a severance package. Imagine if they did that now. They don't even do that anymore. You're out the door. It's done. Goodbye. So I
didn't really know what I was going to do. I will say I was pretty highly respected, and people said, you lose a job, your phone's going to be ringing off the hook. Let me tell you something. It did not ring off the hook.
Tell everybody that.
Nobody was calling. Maybe Hashkarilli may be calling me, but most people didn't know who the fuck I was anymore. It was like, you're as good as your last record. And I was in my 40s, and people were saying, when I went to see a lawyer to try to get out of my contract at MCA, I was miserable there. And someone said, for a guy in dance music, for a guy who's a VP, you don't make enough money. For a guy who's in dance music, you make a lot of money. So anyhow, nobody was offering me a job. No, I'm telling you, nobody. And I didn't know what to do with myself, but for some reason back then, I just don't even think it bothered me. Anyhow, I'm in a record store, Decadence Record. This is how it started. I mean, I'm just going to give you a little how it all started here. So I was in a record store, Decadence Records on 23rd Street. And there was a record being played. And this is near the end of my free money, quote, free money. There was a record being played. And I said to Dennis Watkil, the owner, like, damn, what's this record? I need it. I was DJing on Saturday nights at a bar called G in New York at the same time. I need this record. And he said, there's the producer, Keith Lippman.
Oh, okay.
And like, whoa, this record is fierce. He goes, it's coming out on Nervous Records in January. Do you know Mike Weiss? And of course I knew Mike Weiss. So yeah, he goes, why don't you call him? He has nobody to promote the record. Now here I was, I wanted to be an A&R guy. And like the last thing I wanted to do was promote records. I wanted an A&R job. But I called Mike, and I went up to meet him, and he said, why don't you come and work this record for us? Okay. So I started working Skin. The record was Charlotte Skin. And I started, oh my God, Chris the Greek is in here. Holy shit. 242-0725, right? Anyhow,
Bobby remembers all the phone
that was
numbers.
Ritchie Rivera's number, 2420725.
I was gonna say,
That was Ritchie Rivera's number, 242-20725.
Ritchie at midnight. Everyone, that's DJ Ritchie at midnight. Rivera used to play at Flamingos.
212, 16 Abington Square, apartment 3.
And like,
But anyhow,
Bobby said something on the sidelines to me over breakfast. He said, and that's the reason why he was called. You don't want to see him till midnight.
Look who's here, Jelly Bean. Can you believe it?
Welcome
in,
Jelly
JB.
John Benitez.
So anyhow, I went up to work this record at Nervous. And then, and the guy who's still in the business, Johnny DeMiro, Johnny D, calls me up. I don't think Johnny D had any love for me whatsoever. But he called me up and he said, I hear you're working a record for Nervous Records. Would you want to work a record for Atlantic? Okay. What's the record? It was Tori Amos, Jackie Strength. Then next thing I know, Dave German at Columbia Records is calling me. I got a Mariah Carey record. How would you like to work it for us? And I had to leave Nervous. I couldn't work there anymore, and I never looked back. That's where we are today.
And you wanted the A&R job. But actually, you do
love an A&R job, except now, I'm telling you something. I can't go on TikTok and say, oh my God, I'm going to do my A&R via TikTok. To me, it's always the ears. I could care less what TikTok is doing. It's about the ears. But now it's like, is it on TikTok? I got discovered on TikTok. It's like, yes, it's another avenue. No doubt about it. Not my avenue.
So how do you, okay, good. I'm glad you brought this up. Algorithms and all the current stuff that people use to judge the quality of a record or quality of an artist. How do you circumnavigate around that, being where you come from?
Well, being an independent promoter, I'm I'm given records to promote. So if something, let's say Lenny Fontana was signing Joe Blow, my next door neighbor, and they did a 30-second video and it's huge on TikTok. If that's what I'm handed, if I like the music, I'm going to work it. I'm not going to say to the label, screw you. I don't care about TikTok. If it has 20 million plays on TikTok and the record's good, bring it on.
But that's the problem. Sometimes you see the number, the algorithm is spiking, but the record stinks. How do you just say, is it just what we call it pay for play? Do we just accept the check to do the promotion?
I only go by one thing. My ears.
There you go, everyone.
That's it.
Quality is in.
If I don't like it, I don't care if it has 50 million, 20 million Spotify plays. If I don't like it and it's offered to me, sorry, no dice.
Bobby, how important was that?
If there was zero money in my pocketbook, I would still say no.
Gotcha. How important was that Billboard dance chart when you worked it for all those years, the 20 years?
20 years? No, try like more than that, but
I'm talking about independently.
Now, what's the question again?
How important was that chart to what you, as a promoter?
To me, it was my bread and butter. I put a lot of money in my pocket and got to meet a lot of great people. I'm not going to, again, second time I'm going to say this, but I kind of toot my horn. I would go out and see all these DJs around the country. There was no one I wouldn't go see to help a relationship. And let's face it, the Billboard dance chart, for those who don't know, was the one chart in the magazine where it was not electronically monitored. So relationships really helped in helping to get a record moved up that chart. And I went to see this guy in Iowa. I went to the Iowa State Fair to see all these unhealthy people eating this butter and all this garbage. But I went to that Iowa State Fair with the DJ it was a cultural thing for me to see this. Like, oh my God, like these people are so unhealthy. How can they live like this? But that's Iowa for you. You ever been to the Iowa State Fair, Lenny?
No, I've never been.
It's an eye opener, I'll tell you.
I bet it is. I bet it really is for us. See, that's what I mean. Because of this work, which is glamorous at times, has also its dark side.
But I'll tell you something. To this day, like now, I'll go see my Twitch DJs.
That's what I was going to ask you now.
Nothing's changed.
Well, what has changed for you?
A little bit's changed, but.
So are you still using the same principles as you did with your Billboard way of working with Twitch now?
Absolutely not. Look, the first thing is just being honest. You got to be honest if you know about your music, and you got to know what DJs play a certain genre. That is the same. But with Billboard, like I said, it was a chart that kind of could be hyped. And there was some DJs, I mean, I'm telling like it is, there were some DJs on the panel who used to say to me, look, I wish I could play this record. It just doesn't fit my format, but I love it, and I'm going to help you out. It is what it was. Whereas Twitch, you know, I mean, either you're playing it or you ain't playing it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's one of the reasons I don't like Spotify, is because I see advertisements will get you 10,000 Spotify plays. Yes, it's a big deal with the record industry, but some of it has to be fake.
100%. Most of the time, the buys are fake.
I'm not into this fake crap.
Frockery, right? So speaking of fake to the truth, I'm going to bring this up about the Grammy panel and the whole dance category that we've just experienced for the first time seeing televised, because it's been acknowledged, because Frankie got the remix of the year, David Morales back from the time in Grammy life. But now we're at the point where they brought up Purple Disco Machine for non-classical remix, and Rihanna wins for a dance album.
Beyonce, not Rihanna.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. Thank you. Beyonce. Sorry. Rihanna's fresh in my mind because of the Super Bowl halftime show. But I kind of have my own thought about Beyonce's win. Not to say it's not something that should have happened. We never looked at her as a so-called dance artist. And she's more, we call her a pop artist, technically. I'm going to get shot for this. So you and I spoke about this, and I wanted to get your opinion for all the years you've been doing this. How did you feel about that being viewed in the win for her?
Did I play anything off the album on my Twitch stream? No.
Let's start like that. Did you play anything?
The album was okay. You know, Beyonce is someone who's contributed so much to the music scene. Sometimes things are given maybe in honor of a career as opposed to a specific piece of music. You can't take away what Beyonce has contributed to the music industry. Now, the only gripe I have about this whole thing is that the award has never been shown on TV before. True, it was her record-breaking thing. But from what I always understood was nobody knew who the winners were before the envelope was opened. Was it a coincidence that it was Beyonce's record-breaking award and it was shown? I don't know. You tell me. That's the only thing I have. But maybe she should have been given it for an amazing, amazing career that she has given so much to the music industry. Let's give her props. Okay? And I'll leave it at that. And read
that's
between
fair.
the lines.
No, that's fair. No, it's fair. I mean, sometimes we have that, you know, because until Frankie was honored for the first remix, God, there was so many remixes that could have, should have won pre to Frankie getting that first Grammy, right? But I kind of looked at it with Frankie Knuckles. I'm going to show Frankie's picture because we all love Frankie Knuckles, of course. Bobby and Frankie together at WMC in 90s. What was it, 97?
That's what it looks like underneath.
Yeah, it looks like 97.
On top, yeah.
Frankie got that award, right? And I kind of thought, yeah, that was a cool remix, but there was so many other great remixes. So like you said, it was more of the token, I think. It was due to him. Same with Morales. Christ, how many remixes were huge that David worked on?
And I will say one thing. She certainly invested in hiring a lot of people from the industry on her record.
100%.
From the dance music industry. I'll give her props and leave it at that.
No, she did. Look, they got the right people. The people who are doing stuff now.
And good for her.
Yeah. No, she stepped out of the box.
Let's see what the next record sounds like.
Well, they always say, you're as good as your last record, right?
You know, maybe she'll get wise and hire Lenny Fontana.
I'd love to work with them.
You know?
You never know. You never know. You never know where life's going to take you because, we were talking about this, how the 1990s is making its resurgence again over in the UK. And my life was part of that 90s landscape of house music. So Lord knows what happens. You never know which superstar comes to you and says, hey, I want a track from you. Or I like your track. Hey, it happens.
There's an expression, something I learned early in life. You never know who's going to be someplace tomorrow.
That's right.
Another expression that be nice to everybody because being nice can never hurt, but being rude can really hurt sometimes.
Oh, it's the same people on the way up, the same people
exactly
on the way down, baby.
Ain't it the fucking truth?
Oh my God, Jackie Gleason.
Don't believe me. When I lost my job at MCA Records, I learned who my friends were.
Well, you learn real fast. Like you said,
I learned real fast.
Was Bobby's phone ringing? Yeah, the bitches that knew he had coins in his pocket and want to go out dancing and drink with him and eat. That's different. We're talking about who are the ones saying, Bobby, I got a job for you. That didn't come around.
No, but it worked out okay.
No, you did. Let me tell you something.
Still am. I'm still loving it.
Done. You're not.
I'm loving what I'm doing now.
Are you ever going to retire from this? Are you ever going to pack it?
I don't want to get old. I mean, I want to keep young. Being in the music business kind of keeps you young in some respects.
So
I certainly can't stop the age. We all can't stop the numerical age from growing and keep expanding. But a lot of it's mental, and I love music. So to be blessed to be in the music business for all these years, and I hate the business, but I love the music.
Bobby and Spen, Jocelyn Brown. I mean, he's been around.
I'll tell you a good Jocelyn story here.
Well, that's a good one.
So I wanted to sign, I believe it was somebody else's guy to Warner's, and they turned me down.
Jocelyn's
I was friends with Jocelyn for many years. But they turned me down. They didn't like it. Too bad, right?
Yeah.
It was either that or I'm Caught Up. One of those two. One of those two records I had in my pocket to be signed, and they didn't let me sign it.
The company.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Caught Up went to Marvin Schlachter, and somebody else's guy went to I can't remember right
some label with a blue label.
Yeah, blue label. It's exactly what I was thinking. I can't think of the label. It's an independent.
Yes.
And of course, look how you transcended. You're around Crystal, Anaya, Barbara Tucker. I mean, it's not like you're not.
Barbara really, she did something for me that blew me away. She did her 25th anniversary in the music business party. And she actually had me be her opening DJ at Webster Hall. I was like, Tucker, you wanted me? And she said to me, I couldn't think of anybody else I'd want to play first. Funny story. So I had a big dance floor going. Tony Humphries followed me. Now he was supposed to start. I think I was playing till like 11:30. Tony Humphries comes into the booth and the dance floor was packed and moving. Hey, can I take over now? And it wasn't my end time. And I looked at him and I said, you know something? This is Tony Humphries. Bow down.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's Tony, baby.
Tony Humphries wants to take my spot. Go right ahead, buddy.
Go ahead, Tony. Do your thing.
But we were at Quantizer's party, and Barbara was doing a radio interview, and we were all in one room together. And she actually mentioned on the show that she had me for a DJ. I was blown away.
Barbara's good like that. She's really good.
I was really touched.
before I let you go,
Yeah.
we must. I love this woman, Lady Marmalade, and all her songs with Lord help us, Patti LaBelle. Lord help us, boy. Oh, what a voice.
Say my name, Patty Patty. That was taken at Private Eyes, a club on 20th Street,
The old Sound Factory.
21st Street,
That's right.
which became Sound Factory Bar. I was blessed to work with Patty. The one, I guess, highlight for me with Patty was that we did a song called "The Shoe Is on the Other Foot." Tony Moran was hired. I hired Tony Moran to mix the record, and she re-sang the vocals. And literally, I was in the studio with her and Tony all day, just the three of us, and to like sit there and watch Patti LaBelle do take after take after take, and like I'm sitting here like, oh my God.
Yeah, right. You can't. You're like,
Patti LaBelle is in front of me. Holy shit. I never met Candy Staten, no. But yeah, Patti LaBelle, like, oh my God, I'm sitting here and I'm watching Patti LaBelle do takes and like, oh my Lord have mercy. This is crazy. Patty. I'm going to see her March 12th. She's playing in New York. Al Downing is actually Al Downing is opening for her.
Really?
Playing the King's Theater in Brooklyn, March 12th. Yeah, I bought tickets so freaking fast for that. Patty. Love Patti LaBelle. Patti LaBelle, I was going to say. Don't ask me.
Minnie LeVan.
Patty LaBelle.
Yeah.
Patty. You know, it was funny when I did that remake of from Tu Wong Fu, Lady Marmalade, and there were DJs who didn't know the original when I was promoting it. It was really crazy.
I know, it is crazy.
It is. I went to I was at Five Napkins Burgers, and there was this girl there with huge earrings on, and she was a beautiful girl. And I said to her, God, because Jody Watley used to wear that. I said, you remind me so much of Jody Watley. She looks at me, she goes, who's Jody Watley? Like, okay, you know, maybe I'm getting old. I don't know.
I know, it's so crazy.
Crazy.
You're not getting old. It's just that because you're still out there. You're still cutting edge. What are you talking about? If you know, getting old is.
I love music, so
so you'll never age. You'll never age.
To be blessed to be still doing this, and I never saw.
Bobby, the last question, and I think I asked you this Sunday, but I'm going to say it so that people can hear you. Ask to hear the answer. Any regrets to anything you would have done differently in the whole career?
There was one instance I had, and I don't know if it really didn't have any effect on my job, but I did something stupid that I was called up to Epic Records. They wanted me to hear. I don't think it was offering me a job. Somebody had told them that I don't know. I got called up with an independent promoter. They wanted me to hear what I thought this record could do for the clubs. I listened to it and I said, nah, this won't be a big club record because it wasn't in the vein of a club record. It was Luther Vandross, Never Too Much. You can follow me on Twitch. That's the most important one. Bobby Promo, by the way. I'm seeing someone's asking. Lenny has those things running underneath. There you go.
Pick him up. I'm going to say to Bobby Shore, thank you so much for a wonderful 2 hours.
Oh, it was great.
I hope we covered as much as we could cover. It's
we're always good for round two. There's plenty more to talk about.
Bobby can tell you many, many things. But here's the thing that I love about Bobby Shore. It's called being real. And he kept it very real.
Look, honesty will get you everywhere. Real
is the way I see it. You know, is as real, the real deal as it is. Like he says, I know that person. He knows it. If you ask him, hey, you know such as nope, never work with them. No, I know who they are, of course. So, Bobby, can someone send their record that's not necessarily known to you? Are you open to hearing new product?
Hey, I'm always like I said to you
Explain
before,
that to people.
you never know who the next person you're going to meet, what they can be. Bobby at Bobby Show Promotions. Anytime. I love listening to music. I'm honest. I might hurt your feelings if I don't like it, but I just tell it to you like it is.
That's the problem. Get ready for the truth. You have to be able to accept it.
You know, it is what it is. It's hard to tell somebody that everybody thinks they have a number one record. They don't. You know, it's hard. Look, I've turned down some major artists that I didn't like their records. You know, it is what it is. Trust me, there's been money thrown in front of me that, you know, I wish, but I can't.
Thank you.
Oscar, really, did you see what Matt Hosh and I have had this talk about John Duff? I'm saying, John Duff, that record belonged on the radio. That was such a great record. Hosh and I keep going back and forth about that. Is it a sin record? And then Matt, I did not tell you had to do that. But like that record, Is It a Sin by John Duff, should have been major rate. Still, you know something? Still can be. Such a great record. But, you know, money can't buy me. You could throw $1,000. I don't like it. That's life.
Yeah, because everyone understands this. He's got to believe in what he's saying. If he doesn't believe in it, how do you sell it?
Well, the thing is, nobody will trust me if I do things that I don't believe in. It's trust. It's all about trust. You know, you want people to listen to your music.
It's true.
And I'll say one other thing since we're on this. If you are a Twitch DJ, I love feedback.
Yes, Bobby needs feedback from Twitch people.
That's the biggest issue I have with Twitch. I can't watch 700-something DJs that I service, but I ask for feedback, and very few people on Twitch give me feedback. It's the one gripe I have. If you're on Twitch and you get music from me, please try to email me if you're playing any of the tracks. That's Timothy. You know you're in a different class. Seeps, you know you're in a different class. But and if you're on here, you know, I love doing this Twitch promotion, and everybody's opened their doors to me. So thank you.
And Bobby, we wish you all the success with your newfound career, alongside your other career, of course, that you've done so well. We hope that you become a major partner on Twitch and take that show to the stratosphere.
We'll see. Thank you for watching.
And everyone on True House Stories, thank you for tuning in. You know where you can catch us, and we'll be making an announcement who's coming up next. But for now, have a great night.
Thank you, Lenny.
Good knock. And thanks again. Stay real. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Love and kisses.